What's up, everybody? Joe White here, and this is my review for episode 4 of Mr. McMahon. That's right, the Vince McMahon documentary. Rolling on with it here, and I gotta say, this episode was called Attitude, and it was appropriately called Attitude because it's focused mainly on the Attitude Era. And they say, when did the Attitude Era start? And this episode kind of picks up right after the screw job. And they go for the screw job saying, when did the Attitude Era start? Well, then they say it was Mike Tyson. Well, and then for me, the Attitude Era did not start with Mike Tyson. For me, the Attitude Era started, and Vince Russo is not in this, by the way. They don't even mention Russo's name. It's like Vince Russo never existed. And I guarantee you he's going to have something to say about that. Boy, I cannot wait. Anyway, um, we then go we for me the Attitude Era started in 1997, probably a couple months after there was this Raw in Germany. I think it was a simulcast where they would go to this dimly lit building with no stage set up. It was like they were shooting a house show, and the commentators were commentating on this, live to tape, so that they could cut in modern day references of the day and everything like that. And the episode of Raw was just horrible. It was the episode where British Bulldog was crowned European champion, I believe. Um, that to me was like when Vince McMahon or when Russo came to McMahon and was like, "You need to change this, man. This is wrong." So I do give Russo credit for. I admit I believe him when he says he's the one that went to McMahon and said, "Dude, this has to change. This is crap." So then you fast forward, and they're talking about the Attitude Era, and they're talking about how far they could push the envelope, and I'm all the while sitting here going, this documentary has a theme to it. If you've watched the first two episodes, you understand this documentary should have been called Mr. McMahon, and then underneath of it with a big asterisk, that was another time, because that's the excuse that everybody's making here. Oh, that was another time I can get away with it. That was another time I could do this. That was another time I could do that. And at Tony Atlas, who's back in this episode, anyway, going, this day and age you couldn't get away with this stuff. This day and age you couldn't get away with this and that. And that. And I'm just like, oh my God, we get it already. And then they're talking about how women were treated back then as opposed to now, and they interview Trish Stratus. And this right here, oh my God, one of the pioneers for what women's wrestling has become today, had the nerve to give credit to Sable, of all people. Sable! Oh, yeah, she was flashing her schnabitzes and everything, but she was also out there wrestling and getting athletic. And I'm like, oh my God, did you watch any of her matches? That's so wrong. I mean, it's like, honestly, women's wrestling really didn't getting pioneered again and getting treated seriously until you and Lita came along. Give yourself the credit. But no, Sable. There you have it. Out of the words of the great Hall of Famer Trish Stratus, Sable is the reason why we have women's wrestling in the state that it is today. I mean, I'll put it this way. At least it's not the Bella Twins. They could have said the Bella Twins, but golly, I think Sable was a better wrestler than the Bella Twins, and I know that's going to get me some flack. Oh, Joe, stupid Mark Joe White. Brie Bella and Nikki Bella better than Sable. Not in my book. They're about on par. Honestly, they're about on par. The Bella twins get way too much credit for shit. I'm sorry, they do. They were not as pioneering as you guys want to make them out to be. And, the whole time I'm sitting here with this, they're going over the Attitude Era. I'm sitting here going, okay, in the last episode, you introduced Phil Mushnick, who ripped Vince to shreds over the steroids trial in the lawsuits. Where is he at now? And about that time, Mushnick pops up on the screen. So they're reading my mind as I'm watching this, and the ebb and flow of this episode was really good. This is a really good episode of the documentary. Um, it's getting better as you go along, honestly. And again, this is nothing new. It's nothing that we don't already know as wrestling fans. Them sitting there saying, "Oh, we never marketed to kids. We're not marketing to kids." They're not marketing to kids. The first episode of the War Zone, if you remember, they used to do WWE Raw, and then they used to do the War Zone from 10 to 11. And they used to have it as two different shows, and it was rated two different things. I mean, from what I remember when they first started, this was a TV 14 program. It hasn't always been PG. Again, another time. So, them saying they didn't market to kids, no, they didn't market it to kids. And no, they weren't I mean, they never came out and said, "Hey, kids, come watch this show." They cater toward an adult audience. And I agree with them when they say it's not their fault. The kids were going to school and saying "suck it" and performing wrestling moves on each other and all this. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's you as a parent who has responsibility over what your son or daughter watch and don't watch. You have the final say. There's been many a things where I won't let my son watch this because of the violence. I don't even like my kid watching SpongeBob because to me, that damn cartoon sponge does nothing but teach kids how to burp and fart all day long and laugh at themselves for it. Now, I love a good fart joke as much as the next guy, but I mean, I don't want my kids walking around going, it's okay to just cut one in the middle of public, you know, and it's okay, and the stinkier the better. Hell, when I was growing up, Ren and Stimpy, Ren and Stimpy was, another Nickelodeon program. I was not allowed to watch Ren and Stimpy. If anything, I think Ren and Stimpy came on at like 9 o'clock at night. Like they had like a Nick at Night block, and then from like 11 to midnight they showed Ren and Stimpy. Beavis and Butthead were the same way. They aired Beavis and Butthead at 10 and 11 o'clock at night once little kids went to bed. Raw was aired from 9 to 11. So, um, and then they, for me, the Attitude Era, they don't talk about the end of the Attitude Era yet. They do show some stuff from 2002 on there. In my opinion, the Attitude Era died pretty much, the night after WrestleMania 17. That when The Rock went away and Austin turned heel, and then you had that 1 year gap from 2001 and all the way up until WrestleMania 18, where it was kind of like post Attitude Era. Like you had like a little bridge right there, and then you went from late 2002 onward to the Ruthless Aggression Era, all the way up until they went PG. So for me, and they also talk about the evil Vince McMahon character, and Eric Bischoff's on there again, trying to take credit for everything that everybody ever done, and he's right. You had the NWO first. You had him as a heel, authority figure first. But Vince did it way better. And even Eric Bischoff admits Vince did it better. And then, of course, we go into the Owen Hart stuff. And anytime I'm reminded of the tragedy of Owen Hart, it just makes me sad. Makes me wonder what would happen if Owen were still alive today. What would he think of the business as the way it went, the way it is? They They talk about a lot about Vince's decision to um, continue on with the show and how bad of an idea it was. And you can say all those things, my opinion. You can say all those things in a Monday morning quarterback position. But when you are the quarterback and when you're there in that position at that time, you probably might have thought differently. And we get bitter Bret Hart. As much as I love Bret Hart, they paint him out to be an extremely bitter human being. And he is. He still is. Don't let him fool you. Don't let the fact that he came back for the Hall of Fame and that he came back in, was it 2009, 2010? Don't let that fool you. He's still a bitter old man who hates Bill Goldberg and Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels and everybody else. So don't let all that mess fool you. Bret Hart is still the bitter old man and probably always will be. Um, and that's pretty much where the episode ends. But my God, that comment from Trish Stratus crediting Sable. Yeah, I give her credit. She came in there and she had enough, you know, enough balls, so to speak, to get in there and power bomb a couple men. But to me, they didn't even touch on China. They did not mention China at all. China to me was more pioneering when it came to actual wrestling ability than than Sable. They don't mention Sunny at all, being the most downloaded woman in the world for about a good 1 year period. And it makes me wonder if these are by design, where they're not going to mention Sunny because of her court case and her drama. They're not going to mention China because of their drama, but they'll mention Sable? Come on now. Come on now. What are we doing here, Bill Simmons? What are we doing here? So I'm sitting here also. They make a point to remind you at the start of this episode, because you're now halfway through, they need to remind you again that all these interviews were filmed before McMahon resigned. And it makes me wonder, did they do any interviews with any of the McMahons after he resigned? Probably not. But we are going to see Meltzer go to town. Meltzer's already said he's done interviews about this. We're going to see Meltzer go to town on it. We're going to see Phil Mushnick go to town on it. We're going to see all the outliers. We're not going to get anything from them themselves. So I'm not expecting much. I think we'll get the next episode, them buying WCW, or the end of next episode will be them buying WCW. And then you'll get the years that it's just fallen off in episode 5. And then 6 will be the wrap up. And it's like I said all along, if anybody's expecting anything earth shattering or eye opening, that reminds me. There is a big moment in this episode of they bring up Tyson. And I know this is on purpose. This right here had to be. They left this in. They made sure to leave this in. Oh my God, because they could have taken it out after the fact. They've had how many months to edit this? But no, they left this particular part in. And they even do a needle drop, like music cue when she says it, like, dun-dun, like, gotcha. They asked Stephanie about Mike Tyson coming in. And it's not an old interview. It's a fairly newer interview. Because they got now that's the old, like, previous SmackDown logo in front of her. But they ask her about Mike Tyson. And she goes, well, that was before he was accused of rape or went to jail accused. That was before he was accused of rape, wasn't it? And everybody goes, no. And she's like, oh, shit. Like, she has this look on her face of like, oh, my God. What did we do? That right there told the tale about how Stephanie McMahon feels about her father. That right there was the dun-dun moment of, you know, just the look on her face is like, oh shit, wow. We hired a rapist, and a rapist pretty much vaulted us into the biggest era, helped vault us into the biggest era of our career. It's just wow. That right there. In fact, I had to go back and watch it to see the look on Stephanie's face. Just go watch the look on her face when somebody off camera goes, "No, we hired him after." Come on now. It was after the Robin Gibbons stuff. So, is it Gibbons? Gibbons, I think it was. Gibbons, or it's not, or was it Gibbons? I don't remember. It was Robin. Um, And then, we get McMahon also saying, we placated towards adults. We didn't kill anybody. They could have used the concrete crip match thing, but that was ruthless aggression era. No, they instead used somebody getting buried alive in a coffin. Well, we didn't really nobody got raped. And they talk about rape. You rapist. He calls somebody a rapist. Well, nobody got mutilated, and then we cut right down. As soon as he said that, I'm going, choppy, choppy, yo, pee pee. And they cut right to the choppy, choppy, pee pee spot. I mean, it's just like, dude, they purposely sat there and contradicted everything that you said with your own shit. I mean, this was the episode where really, if you thought Vince McMahon has, is two-faced before. Wow. He really believes his own shit, doesn't he? He really believes that they didn't bury people alive, quote unquote, kill people. He really believes that they've never accused anybody of rape on their television. He really believes nobody was mutilated after people are giving birth to hands and choppy choppy or pee pee and all this mess. Come on. This guy, wow. He really believes that he's a saint. But anyway, again, we all know that McMahon's a scumbag. We all know that McMahon has said and done questionable shit. My thing is, I got to look at it from the other perspective, too, of Janelle Grant was perfectly happy just sitting back and taking the money while washing the poo out of her hair. Come on. And not only did she take money after the fact, she took gifts and while this was going on. So, again, two sides to every story. I hate when people just want to look at it from the whole one-sidedness. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought of episode 3 of McMahon. Yeah, was this episode 3 though? Yeah, episode 3 of McMahon. Sorry, I'm watching these all in a row and then trying to space these out over days to you guys, so it could get a bit confusing. I'm recording this actually, right after. Wait, right? This is episode 4. 1, 2. Yeah, episode 4. Golly, it's been a long day, folks. It's been a long day. I'm gonna go watch episode 5 now. Episode 1 through 3 uploaded. This is episode 4. Ah, this was episode 4. Golly. Anyway, folks, we'll see you down the road.